Hello, welcome everybody. This is Dan, the real estate man. I'm here again with your friend Dave from Hallmark, and today we have another presentation for you. Where we are going to talk about low down payment programs.
Correct.
So you are looking into buying a house, you want to get into real estate, you want to get you something, but you're struggling to have a sizable down payment. And we know a lot of people are going through that now. The economy is tough, and having enough money for a 20% down payment or something along those lines, it's not a reality for everybody. So there are programs out there that will allow you and enable you to get into a house with very little down payment, sometimes even to no down payment at all. Is that correct? You
Right.
can get to a house with like zero down payment?
Correct.
Wow.
All right, the lending programs out there that are no down payment are VA or veterans. So a great benefit for our veterans is for them to be able to buy a house with not putting any down payment down.
And if you're a veteran watching it, thanks for your service.
Yes.
We're happy that there is those programs to help you get into a property.
And it's the least we can do for them providing us our freedom.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So the second no down payment program that is available to everybody is what's called USDA, or it also goes by Rural Development. It's a program that provides 100% financing for the purchase of a primary residence. And by the way, we're talking about primary residences here.
Okay, so this is not for investors. We do have other programs and other products that are geared towards investors. This is not the case. This is for homeowners looking to buy their primary residence.
And with the USDA program, and it's looking for a house to be in a rural area type of setting. So if it's within a city such as Columbus, that within the city limits of Columbus, it would not qualify for that financing.
Okay, and just so that people who are watching, let's say you're local and you're looking for something to qualify, how far off the city limits do you have to be? And is it a zoning requirement or is there a radius? How does that work?
USDA has determined what is a rural area. They have a mapping system, so if you go to their website, you can look as to what areas qualify and don't qualify.
Okay, good deal. So a hint, if you're looking into potentially getting into this program, you go to their website. What's the website? USDA?
I think it's probably USDA.gov.
Okay, you can Google, find the USDA website, and there's a map where you can check if the property that you're potentially looking would qualify under that guideline.
You'll put the property address in.
Great,
Okay.
great. Yeah. I would assume probably if you're in Columbus and you're looking something, towards Nashville, CPO, just outside of
Right.
city limits, there's probably some potential there.
When you take the Columbus area, Brown County qualifies, the entire county, Jackson and Jennings County completely qualifies, and then southern Johnson County.
Great.
Qualifies.
So there's plenty of opportunities out there. Brown County is beautiful, and it's a short drive to Columbus.
Correct.
And there's plenty of opportunities out there.
So-
Okay, so that is 100% financed
Correct.
through that program.
So the third 100% financing program is through the state of Indiana, through the Indiana Housing Development Authority. And what that program provides is a permanent lien on the property that is equal to 6% of the purchase price, and that helps to offset closing costs and down payment assistance.
So with the state program, you have a lien on the property. That's about 6% of the sales price, or is it?
Correct, of the
Okay.
sales price.
And then, but eventually you can just pay off that lien, right? You don't have to have it for forever.
Correct. There's no interest being charged on the lien. When you sell the property, it needs to be paid off. You can pay it off in advance. It's a way to defer the savings for your down payment while you own a home.
Okay. And now, if there's no interest on that lien, there's really no incentive to just pay it off early. You can just take care of it. Just think about, okay, when I am ready to sell this property, I'll pay 2 commissions, right? You're going to pay your realtor and you're going to pay that lien, which is another 6%.
Right.
So you just keep that in your math. But again, you got into the house with zero down payment. That property will appreciate over time. So you're now building equity on that property. Instead of paying rent and paying someone else's mortgage. You're now paying your own mortgage to the property that you own, that you got in with zero down payment. And then when it's time to sell, then you just pay that 6%.
Correct.
Great. That's a fantastic option.
The fourth 100% financing program that we have is through FHA. So the program is 2 loans. It's a first mortgage that is at 96.5% of the purchase price of the home, and the second mortgage is at 3.5% of the remaining purchase price of the home. So it allows you to buy a home anywhere. There's no property location restrictions. And it allows you to, again, purchase a house, borrowing all of it. So
Now, with FHA, there are some guidelines, right, for the property and also for the borrower.
Right.
Not everybody will qualify for an FHA. There are some guidelines, but again, it's a possibility. You now get 2 loans, one for your down payment, which is the traditional 3.5% that you would, that a lot of people who do FHA loans would go for. And then the second is for the remaining balance for that property.
Right.
So you're basically just financing your down payment, which will then let you get into a house with no money down.
Right. So the second mortgage is on a 10-year term. So again, with it being a second mortgage, you're borrowing your down payment. You're able to have home ownership, and hopefully you're acquiring appreciation on the property rather than waiting to save for the down payment.
And that becomes very, very evident in the recent market, right, where properties were appreciating so fast, especially between 2019 and 2022, where property prices went up, that if you were to save money for a down payment, most people would not be able to keep it up because you're having to keep saving more and more and more because the prices are going up. So let's say you're shooting for a 10% down payment and you're buying a $300,000 property, you need 30. But then a year later, that property is now 320, 350, 400 after 2 years, and now you need $40,000, which means that now if you're saving, $500 every month, now you have to save $700, $800 every month. And not everybody can fit that. And if you keep just saving the $500 every month, you might never actually get the 10% because the prices keeps going up.
Right. So that brings up a great point where I want to talk about, there are some financial advisors out there who advise, hey, put the 20% down, you don't have to pay PMI, and they kind of make PMI as an evil cost.
Which is, by the way, what, $120, right?
It's dependent. But it provides me as a lender the ability to then finance somebody who doesn't have the 20% down payment. I have several case studies that I can tell you about people that I've helped using either 100% financing or the low down payment programs that we have available. And now 3-4 years later, we've been able to refinance, get rid of PMI. And if they would have waited, not only would they be short the down payment money because the homes have appreciated, but now they have all this additional equity that they wouldn't have had by continuing to rent.
So 3 years down the road, now they have equity on the property. They have been paying their mortgage. The house has appreciated, so 100% of the appreciation is theirs to keep. It's free equity, right? So you bought the house for X. Now the house is X plus 1. That plus 1 is yours. You have the equity because you've been making payments on it, so you have that equity. And because the property appreciated in value, now you might be able to get actually a lower rate because you're refinancing, and you get rid of PMI altogether because now you are above that 20% because the new price of the property. So it's a win-win across the board when a lot of people think, well, I really want to save that 20%, when if you can get into the right house at the right time, things will work out.
So when you buy a house with a no down payment or a limited down payment program, conventional will allow for a 3% down payment. So they don't allow for 100% financing yet. They, hopefully that will change in the future. I don't know.
But again, conventional with the 3% down payment is also considered, a low down payment, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people that are thinking buying real estate, they're thinking 20%, 20%. That a lot of people have that in their minds. And Dave and I, we're telling you right now, you do not need 20% down.
Right.
You can do 0% down, you can do 3% down, and you can do anywhere in between.
Right.
0 and 20. There are programs out there that can get you in a property with as low as 0.
And here's the thing, with VA and USDA, even though it's a no down payment program, you are allowed to put a down payment towards those if you have those. So just don't automatically think, oh, I'll automatically do 100% financing. Those programs will allow a down payment.
Yeah.
And in turn, they'll reduce the fees.
So you see, there are options, right?
Yes.
You know, some people might be struggling to have that down payment because they're paying rent. But now if they can get into the right house, that will turn into equity over time.
Yeah.
So there's benefits out there.
What's nice about real estate is if you own it, you are building net worth because the home does appreciate. And granted, you have to access that appreciation by either selling the property or refinancing, accessing the equity. But eventually you're going to sell the property and there's appreciation there that you can use to either downsize a house and buy a smaller house, but use the equity of the house that you've used to, have your family grow in.
You can do a cash out, you can do a HELOC. There's plenty of things that you can do once you have that asset, right?
Yeah.
Because you're building wealth.
And if you don't want to sell, again, real estate is a very lendable asset. Most people love to lend and use the real estate as collateral.
Because it's a great collateral because it's a very easy to borrow against. It's
very easy to determine value, and guess what? People need roofs over their head. So if you put it on the market, you're typically going to have a buyer.
It's not like a fancy car that today it's trending, everybody wants it. A year later, nobody wants it, and it's depreciating very fast. Over time, most of the time, real estate will appreciate versus most other assets, like a car, they will depreciate and their value will go down. Great.
So,
Can you talk us a little bit more about, so just a quick recap, there's several different options. One is VA loans, right? Which is not for everybody, it's for our veterans out there.
Right.
We have USDA loans, which is geared towards rural communities outside of city limits, so that people can get those. We have the program through the state of Indiana. So the state of Indiana, through the Indiana Housing, has a program so that you can get 100% financing. And you have FHA loans, which traditionally people think, well, okay, FHA is up, as low as 3.5% down.
Right.
In reality, it's as low as 0% down because you can then get a second mortgage.
Right. We have a program that allows for a second mortgage to allow 100% financing using FHA.
Perfect. Now, all these 4 programs, they have different criteria in terms of qualification. They may have different rates. They may have different requirements for the property itself. As we talked about, USDA will be towards rural communities. Each program will have their own criteria. If you are interested in any of these, you want to learn more about, hey, I'm paying rent, I want to buy a house, I have no money down, what are my options? Schedule a time with Dave or me. Especially Dave is the expert on it. Give him a call. Say, hey Dave, can we talk about 0 down? This is what my situation is. I need a house this big. I have no money to put down, or I have little money to put down. What are my options? Dave will walk you through all the options based on your credit score, your specific situation, the type of property that you're looking for.
Yeah, the way I pre-approve somebody is really within what your ability is to buy a house. One thing I don't do is put you into the maximum amount that you can finance, because that's just asking for a future disaster to happen. We come up with something that is within the borrower's reasonable abilities to repay.
Absolutely.
So sometimes I have to educate them, like, hey, I'd love for you to be able to buy this house that you can't afford, but this is really what you need to be looking at, because this is what you can afford, and continue to grow your net worth.
And it's based on income, right? The good thing about that is if you are paying rent, and which is, I like to tell my clients, rent is 100% interest because you're not getting any equity out of it.
Right. It's providing a roof over your head so you don't get when it rains, or you don't get snow on you when it snows, but you're not building the equity that you are providing the rent that's helping the landlord and the property owner to build. And renting is good for the short term, but I personally think it's not a good way to be investing your money when you can own a house and that home appreciates.
Absolutely.
You know, and those are dollars you're spending. So let's use
one
the
way or
dollars,
another,
yeah,
right?
Right. Let's use those dollars to grow net worth.
Absolutely. And most people, over time, their income will go up, right? So there's no harm in, I'll get a low down payment program. I'll get a starter home, a smaller home, so I'm not paying rent. Over time, as your income goes up, you might look into upgrading, right? But now you have equity that you built over time that you can use for the down payment for your bigger property when you're ready to move up.
Yeah, I think one thing I'm seeing with the younger generation, this is not a knock on you, let's buy our forever home now. Prior to 2020, most people own 3 to 7 homes in their lifetime. And for some reason, there's this thing out there, let's just own one home and leave it at that. If you can find your first home and make it your forever home, great. But there's nothing wrong with buying a very small house in the beginning that meets your needs for your family at that time, and then stepping up along the way.
Especially because a lot of the younger buyers, they have a smaller family. They may not have kids, or maybe they have one kid, so they can get into a starter home, that they call it a starter home. Over time, you sell that property, you move up to a bigger home as your family grows, as your needs grow as well. But for most of the time, your income is also growing with that, so things will just come together and help, versus just delaying that home ownership might put you in a position where you're never going to own a home because it's hard to keep up with the market sometimes.
Right. And the thing I want to encourage people to take into consideration is, with these lower down payment or no down payment programs, you're able to buy a house now and you're growing wealth. And 3 or 4 years from now, when you would have had the money saved up, only to realize you're still short the down payment. And then if you still have to buy a house with a loan program where you're paying PMI, why not tackle it now? Let's get that 4 years of appreciation.
Exactly. Great.
So typically, when I look at buying now versus waiting in the future, I have not been able to create a scenario where buying now is not the best solution.
I usually tell my clients, buying real estate is like planting a tree. Well, people ask, when is the best time to buy real estate? So, well, that would be 20 years ago. Yeah. And the second best is today, because you can't really buy house. I wish I could buy houses in the 80s right now. 20, 30, 40 years ago. I can't. I can only buy what's available right now.
So, because once you buy a house now, you now have an asset that typically appreciates. Where if you're waiting to buy a house because you want to save up for the down payment, because you think PMI is bad, PMI is not bad. PMI is good because it allows me as a lender to have the loan insured to be able to lend to you.
Perfect. So quick recap, up to 4 different programs are available right now. VA, USDA, State of Indiana through the Indiana Housing and FHA loans. If you want to get into a house, come talk to Dave. He will walk you through the process. He will get qualified, and then you come talk to me, and we're going to find you that right place. I always encourage people, the best place to start finding a house is getting qualified first. Get your pre-approval, know how much you can work with. It doesn't help you to go look at 300 houses and spend a lot of time driving around town looking at all these houses just to find out your budget's here, the houses you were looking for are up here. This way you know exactly what you can afford. You're already qualified. All you have to do is pull the trigger, right? Just find the property and you're ready to go.
I tell you what you can afford. Dan here finds the house for you.
Yeah. And I will find a house for you. Yeah. As long as we know what you can get, we will find you a house. So Dave, thanks for joining me today. I think those are fantastic options for people who are struggling to get the down payment together. It's so nice to know that there are options out there. Yeah. Almost anybody can be a homeowner. If you work and you have an income, we'll make things happen,
And if you're not able to qualify for financing now, there's steps we can make that typically make you able to buy a house within 12 to 24 months.
Absolutely. So
It's-
even if you're not ready right now,
Yeah.
Dave here will help you with the steps. Hey, if you do these for these long,
Mhm.
you come back in a year, we can work things out. So here is the path to home ownership, and we can help you with that as well. Okay, well, thanks for joining us today. We'll keep making content for you. If you like this type of content, you need any help, feel free to reach out to us. I will add our contact down here on the screen so that you know how to get a hold of us. If you like this type of content, you like real estate, follow my channel, and see you next. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.